The fascinating transformation how burrs inspired Velcro. We've all been there. After a walk through the woods, you look down to find your clothes and maybe your dog covered in those ridiculously stubborn burrs. You spend the next 10 minutes picking them off, wondering why they have to cling with such frustrating persistence. But what if that annoyance was actually the spark for a world-changing invention? For one Swiss engineer, that exact moment of irritation after a walk in the Alps with his dog led to an idea that took a decade to perfect and is now found in almost every home, hospital, and even on spaceships. This is the story of how one of nature's peskiest creations inspired one of humanity's most useful. Our story starts in 1941 with a Swiss electrical engineer named George de Mestral. An avid outdoorsman and inventor, de Mestral was coming home from a hunting trip in the Jura Mountains with his dog. When he got back, he saw that both his wool pants and his dog's fur were covered in cockleburs. Like any of us would, he started the tedious job of picking them off, one by one. But for George, this wasn't just an annoyance. It was a puzzle. He was fascinated by their grip. How did these little plant seeds hold on so tightly? Zippers were common, but they jammed. Buttons were reliable but slow. He couldn't help but wonder if this natural glue could be turned into something useful. Driven by a curiosity that most people might have ignored, he decided not to just toss the burrs away. Instead, he saved them for a closer look. De Mestral put one of the burrs under his microscope, and what he saw was a masterpiece of natural engineering. The burr wasn't just sticky. It was covered in hundreds of tiny, perfectly formed hooks. He then looked at the threads of his pants and his dog's fur, noticing they were made of thousands of tiny loops. Suddenly, the mechanism was crystal clear. The tiny hooks on the burr were catching onto the loops in the fabric, creating a bond that was strong but could be pulled apart. It was a simple, brilliant system that nature had perfected over millions of years for one reason: to spread its seeds. That was de Mestral's aha moment. He realized if he could artificially copy this hook and loop system, he could create a fastener that was elegant, strong, and reusable. The idea for what we now call Velcro was born. Having a great idea is one thing, but making it real is a whole different beast. De Mestral's journey from a microscopic observation to a product you could actually sell took him nearly a decade of relentless tinkering. He pitched his idea to textile experts in Lyon, a weaving hub in France, but was mostly met with doubt and even a little laughter. The idea of manufacturing millions of microscopic hooks just sounded absurd. Unfazed, he found a weaver who was willing to give his crazy vision a shot. His first tries with cotton were a flop. The material was too soft and wore out almost immediately. The loops would fray and the hooks would lose their shape. For years, he struggled to find the right material and a way to mass produce it. The breakthrough finally came with a new wonder material: nylon. De Mestral discovered, partly by accident, that when nylon thread was sewn in loops and heat-treated, it formed tough, resilient loops that held their shape. Even better, he figured out that if he snipped the tops off these loops, they formed perfect, durable hooks. That was the secret. He now had both sides of his fastener: a strip of soft, fuzzy loops and a strip of stiff, grasping hooks. The next challenge was building a machine that could do this automatically, a feat that took several more years to get right. After a long, tough journey of refinement, de Mestral finally had a product ready for the world. He had two strips of nylon fabric. One was a sea of tiny, flexible loops, the other an army of tough little hooks. When pressed together, they locked tight. When pulled apart, they made that now iconic ripping sound as hundreds of hooks let go. In 1955, de Mestral officially patented his invention, which he originally called the zipperless zipper. Of course, he needed a catchier name. He blended the French words velours for velvet and crochet for hook. Velours plus crochet gave him Velcro, a brand name that would soon become a household name. He founded Velcro SA to start production, opening plants in Switzerland and eventually expanding to the United States in Manchester, New Hampshire. But even with a patent and a clever name, success didn't happen overnight. The world wasn't quite sure what to make of this strange new fastener. The big break for Velcro came from the most high-tech and demanding place you could imagine: outer space. In the 1960s, NASA was prepping for the Apollo missions and had a weird problem to solve. In zero gravity, everything floats. Astronauts needed a way to stick their tools, food packs, and equipment down so they wouldn't drift away. Old-school fasteners just weren't practical. But Velcro? It was perfect. It was lightweight, flexible, and didn't need to be lined up perfectly to work. NASA engineers went all in on the hook and loop fastener. They used it inside spacecraft to anchor astronauts' feet in their boots and to stick instruments to the walls. They attached checklists and pens to their spacesuits, and one astronaut even put a small patch inside his helmet to use as a nose scratcher. The widespread use of Velcro during the Apollo missions, broadcast to millions on Earth, was the ultimate product placement. Suddenly, Velcro wasn't just some quirky invention, it was space-age tech. That, linked to one of humanity's greatest achievements, launched the brand into the public eye. After its starring role with NASA, Velcro's popularity exploded. What was once a niche product quickly became a part of everyday life. The 70s and 80s saw it pop up in countless consumer goods. Shoemakers used it to create shoes that kids could fasten themselves, a small but significant liberation from the tyranny of shoelaces. The fashion world put it on jackets, bags, and belts. Doctors and nurses found it essential for blood pressure cuffs and medical braces. The military even used it on uniforms and gear, though its signature RRIP sound turned out to be a bit of a liability in stealth missions. From organizing cables behind your desk to holding parts of a car together, the uses seemed endless. De Mestral's simple observation of a burr had sparked a multi-million-dollar industry and an invention that solved thousands of problems, big and small. It was strong, durable, endlessly reusable, and brilliantly simple. It was proof that sometimes the best solutions are hiding in plain sight. George de Mestral's story is probably the most famous example of a powerful field of science called biomimicry. The idea is simple but profound. Look to nature to help solve human problems. Nature, through billions of years of evolution, has already figured out solutions to many of the same challenges we face. Animals, plants, and microbes are the world's master engineers. They've found what works, what fits, and what lasts. Velcro is the poster child for this principle. The burdock plant came up with a super efficient way to spread its seeds, and de Mestral was smart enough to copy it instead of reinventing the wheel. This approach is now inspiring breakthroughs in countless industries, innovations that are often more efficient and sustainable than anything we could dream up on our own. Nature's R&D lab is the most advanced on the planet, and its blueprints are all around us, just waiting to be discovered. The genius of biomimicry goes way beyond hook and loop. Scientists and engineers are constantly turning to the natural world for their next big idea. Take the gecko, a lizard that can scamper up smooth glass walls. By studying their feet, scientists found millions of microscopic hairs that create a powerful bond without any glue. This has inspired gecko tape, a reusable, residue-free adhesive that could be a game-changer for medicine and robotics. Architects are studying termite mounds in Africa that stay cool inside despite scorching temperatures outside. By mimicking the mound's clever network of vents, they're designing self-cooling buildings that use far less energy. Even shark skin is a source of inspiration. It's covered in tiny, tooth-like scales that reduce drag and stop bacteria from growing. That has led to everything from faster swimsuits to germ-resistant surfaces in hospitals. From a kingfisher's beak inspiring quieter bullet trains to butterfly wings inspiring brighter screen displays, the examples are everywhere. The story of Velcro is more than just the history of a handy product. It's a powerful reminder of what can happen when you mix curiosity with a bit of observation. It all started with a walk, a dog, and a common annoyance. Where most of us would see a nuisance, George de Mestral saw a question. He looked closer, asked how, and then spent a decade figuring out the answer. His journey transformed a pesky burr into a global phenomenon that went from the Swiss Alps all the way to the Apollo missions. His legacy shows us that game-changing ideas aren't always born in high-tech labs. They can be sparked by the most ordinary moments. It teaches us that nature is the world's greatest innovator, and its designs are a library of brilliant solutions just waiting for us. So the next time you run into a little frustration or see something in nature that catches your eye, take a second to look closer. You might just be looking at the start of the next great invention. What do you think is the most clever invention inspired by nature? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories about the fascinating origins of everyday things, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.